I'm sure you follow two Iranian women, Elika Laban, Goldie Gamari. They were
Yeah.
on Pierce Morgan, and they were both
Yeah.
laughing, but they were laughing at Cenk, who basically said that, Israel is responsible for every war. Then
I
days
know.
later, Anna
I know.
Kasparian, who she basically remade
Yeah.
the video. Okay, she remade the video as if they were laughing at U.S. soldiers who were killed. Then, Elika posts
Yeah.
on her social media that she got death threats. Her and Goldie got death threats from an Iranian-backed hacker group. It's
Yeah.
scary that, their lives are on the line. You worked with Anna Kasparian. You were on a
I
talk show with
know.
her, Her Take on PBD. You walked off the
I
set because
know.
you were like, I'm just done. I think it was like her Israel obsession. I mean, she's literally now endangering women's lives while sitting pretty with her hair and makeup. What is her deal? What is her obsession with
You know what's
Islamists?
crazy? I was thinking about this morning, watching Jank,
Hmm.
turn beet red, spits coming at you. He's just like unraveling on camera. And what's wild is that just about 2 years ago, I thought, I, okay, as a person who I think now is squarely center right,
Hmm.
liberals will no longer have a conversation with you, and that's a big problem in my opinion. And both Jank and Anna would be willing to show up for a conversation, not about Israel. So I had been very impressed with the ways in which Anna articulated Gavin Newsom's failings in California. Quite honestly, the only person that does it better is Michael Schellenberger. She
Hmm.
she does a tremendous job. Unfortunately, she stopped doing that to just go after Israel 24/7. But she really had a broad, deep knowledge base on all of the policy failures and could communicate them better than anyone has mentioned. So I invited her onto my podcast and we got in a conversation. And she was also talking about the ways in which she had felt the left had lost it. And it was after she'd been assaulted by homeless people. And when she spoke about it publicly, they called her a racist, despite the fact that the homeless people weren't even people of color. And we kind of really bonded over that. And I thought, this is a really like young, intelligent Spitfire. So Jank, I then invite onto my podcast after Trump gets elected. And this guy went to Wharton Business School. He's not dumb. And I thought, okay, come and tell me all the reasons you don't like Trump, you don't like Elon Musk, you don't like Doge. You'll talk to me. Tell me, because I only see it from now
Hmm.
what is a right-wing bubble. And I try to get out of these echo chambers and gain some perspective because I know how dangerous that can be. And he shows up and we have a very honest conversation. And I really appreciated that. That meant a lot to me because you cannot get liberals to show up. You just can't. You cannot get them. I got one
Hmm.
other, Kara Swisher. She told me that I was like a bad person and anti-trans the entire time, I was just so grateful she showed up. I was like, that's fine. You can be told, you can hate on me the entire time. At least you showed up for the conversation.
Right.
Um,
It's the same
so
talking points, by the way, all the time. They hate you.
yeah.
They name call. But anyway, so go on. Okay.
So Patrick Bet David comes to me and he's like, listen, I'm thinking of doing uh a version of The View over here, but I want more diversified perspectives. He'd wanted Sage Steele, but she wasn't available. And he put together this list of people, and he hired Lindy, he hired Amy, and he had wanted Sharon Osbourne, and she fell out, and I
Fell in.
I got Anna. No, I had the job. I got Anna the job.
Oh,
And dude,
you got
because
Anna the job on the
I
Hurt
got it.
Take? Okay, this is getting okay. Go on.
And I
Okay.
fought
Uh-huh.
with PBD over it because he's like, I don't know. And I literally, I could have the text messages and the emails. And I was like, no, you need her. You need like a strong, she went to journalism school. Like, you can't just have opinions. We need journalists here. Like, it's one thing for me to be a host for you, but I got to have actual journalists. And he was very invested in Lindy Lee because she's on Manect, which is a big platform, and she does very well on it. And she's a very intelligent girl. I don't agree with her on a lot of things, but she cannot question the fact that Lindy is she's very intelligent.
Hmm.
And her knowledge of history is impressive. So I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense for the panel. And I liked the fact that her and Anna had differing points of view because I thought, well, this will be interesting. We can hear from sort of both of them and get a diverse perspective. Amy, I didn't really quite understand, but she was a valuetainment employee, and I was like, all right, whatever. Like, who cares? If this is who PBD wants, that's fine. So as time went on, I started to watch this transformation with Anna, and everything was anti-Semitic. Everything. And there were these crazy statements where she would suggest on the podcast that the Jews were responsible for 9/11. And I'm getting all these videos sent to me of her saying, my God, what was the one where she's like, you think you're God's chosen people, but you're really demons? And like all of these insane, and like the bulging eyes, the spit, the beet red face. And I'm thinking like, all right, I'm not comfortable being associated with this. I don't want to platform this narrative. And we'd had very honest conversations about her criticisms of the Israeli government. I don't know enough. And that was a huge problem for me because I thought, if you're going to do this, we need a Coleman Hughes, a Dave Rubin, a Batya Ungar Sargon, a Gad Sad to provide perspective. Because when you say things like they're starving these children, well, then you listen to someone like Coleman or Dave Rubin, they're like, that's not actually true. That's propaganda. I don't have the ability to answer that. I can't defend it. So there were plenty of conversations like that, by the way, where I would just kind of sit there thinking like, is this true? And then I would call somebody afterwards and be like, did this happen? Because this is really distressing. And it was like, well, part of this didn't happen. Anyway, long story short, I started to be very vocal about the fact that I thought that this kind of vitriol belonged on the Young Turks platform. And every single show started to be about bashing Israel. So the one that actually never made it out because Charlie Kirk had been assassinated was one we did with Crystal Ball.
Okay.
And that one was, oh my God. So at the end of that show, I had suggested, like, this is going to hurt a lot of people. Like, we cannot, this is not responsible anymore. We don't have a balanced perspective, and we got to rein this in. Cut to, it's the next week, so Charlie has just been assassinated, and the rumor starts circulating that it's Israel again. And I'm just like,
Here we go.
Dave Smith says it's not Israel. Nick Fuentes, who is probably the greatest anti-Semite at the moment, said it's not Israel. Tucker Carlson, I although I guess he did make the hummus comment, but even like the greatest Israel haters, critics had said it's not Israel, right? There's no evidence to suggest it's Israel. Max Blumenthal in the Gray Zone, who was trying to implicate Israel, is known to have taken a ton of money from Iran and Russia.
He was just there.
Like, everybody knows.
Long ago. Like, yeah.
That they're completely compromised.
Yeah.
And so I responded to the group. I'm like, this is not responsible. This isn't true. Yeah. And they just buried this man yesterday. I think it was his pastor has asked people not to do this, not to have these conversations. It's disrespectful. Yeah. So the answer back is, yeah, we know it's not true, but everybody's talking about it. So, we should. And I said, if you guys do this, I'm going to be really aggressive about the fact that this is not true. And they're like, no, we're going to present it that way. Don't worry. So of course we get out there, and all three of them actually accept Anna. That's what's so crazy. Amy and Lindy tried to actually make the case that it was Israel. Lindy's trying to give credibility to Max Blumenthal, which I was because Lindy, by the way, behind the scenes is messaging me being like, Anna's losing it. Anna, this is crazy. We got to calm this down. So when Lindy all of a sudden tried to make that case, I was so pissed because I'm thinking, you've been asking me to get a grip of this situation. And here we are. You're now trying to make the case.
Wow.
Amy is then like, well, Candace. I'm like, what is your evidence, Amy? And she's like, Candace Owens. And
okay, yeah.
I know. Oh, God. What is happening?
I know.
What is happening? And then Anna, to her credit, goes, yeah, no, it's not true. There's no evidence. However, and then launches into another attack on Israel and Netanyahu And it was just because there was nothing, nothing relevant about where we were. And at that moment, I just was like, I can't do that. I can't be a part of this. This is wrong. It's just, this is not okay. You're going to get people killed. Like, you can't do this. This is insane. I just watched a video. I'll give you an example for anybody who thinks this is hyperbole. I just watched a video of a guy, maybe you've seen this actually, on college campuses trying to raise money from students. And his pitch to them is that we have to go after the Jews where they live because they've grown out of control. And he's like, we've got missiles and suicide bombs. He's like, but we need bullets and we need handguns and we want to hit them, at the temple, the school bus, the community center. And these kids are they're like, I'll give you $10. I will send you the video to insert it if you want. I will send it to you.
Send it to
I actually
me, please.
bookmarked it.
Wow.
And I thought, like, this is what's happening, is people truly believe that Israel is the root of all evil. And again, I'll say I am certainly not an expert on this subject matter. However, every time I follow one of these leads, like, well, AIPAC gave all of this money, and you're like, okay, well, how much money was it? Oh, it's a couple $2 billion. Like, well, that's bad. I certainly don't want them influencing our government. Then you come to find out that Qatar gave $23 billion and Saudi Arabia gave $100 billion, and the UAE gave $32 billion. And then it just, every time I follow a layer of outrage, somebody else is doing it at an exponentially greater rate.
Right. And you just had Megyn Kelly come out and she's talking about something that has totally been debunked about $7,000 for every post and foreign influence. I'm like, okay, Megyn, if we're going to talk about foreign influence here, let's talk about the Qataris. Let's talk about CCP. Tucker Carlson just came out with a video now. I mean, he's throwing a tantrum because, the mullahs have been taken out. He's accusing Chabad, which puts a target on Jews' backs. I want to say something. I want to thank you for having integrity. You keep saying, I don't know. You know enough as a human being. Like, this isn't right. This is hypocrisy, okay? Obviously, Israel is to blame for my toilet not working right now, okay? Israel is to blame for... It's like literally Israel is to blame for...
I'll give you an example of what I don't know, what I mean by I don't know.
No.
So somebody will come to me and say, listen, the New York Times printed that... Netanyahu and the IDF knew about October 7th and they let it happen so they could go in. Now, if that happened and it's in the New York Times, that's obviously deeply upsetting. I don't know. What I do know is October 7th was deeply upsetting. What I do know is that you have a host of other foreign governments that are outspending Israel at an exceptional pace. What I do know is that you're furious about the blockade, but you're not furious about the fact that Egypt drowned Palestinians trying to escape in sewage in the tunnels. Why are you not mad about that? That's the part that I start to go, this is not an honest conversation. Because again, they're like, look what they did at the border. And you're like, well, why are you not mad about what Egypt did to them then?
Have you seen Egypt's border? It's the most fortified in the world. So ever since October 7th, I've spent literally the last couple of years debunking these stories.
I know.
So that's how my social media went crazy because nobody, people weren't really doing it. And so I was like, okay, so here's a narrative that's out. Here's the truth. And honestly, it was just so overwhelming, by the way. Like, it's exactly what's happening in Iran right now. But I want to quickly go back to Anna Kasparian. You have so much integrity. You're literally there and you're like, I'm out of here. I'm done. Why do you think that, she has this obsession with Islamists and now she's, doing this to Iranian women?
I know. Honestly, I don't know. I continue to watch the video that she just did with Piers because, of course, 10 different people sent it to me. And Piers is like, 30,000 Iranians have been killed. And she's like, you don't even know that's true. And he's like, well, it's kind of widely accepted that that's the number. Oh, please, Piers. It's probably 3,000. And I just thought, even if it's 30, but okay, Anna, You know that the regime is raping, murdering, torturing, slaughtering for decades. So, like, what are you doing? I don't know. And then you have Iranian women saying, shut up. You have no idea what you're talking about. And the level of, I don't know if it's narcissism. I don't know if it's just a complete ideological capture. I don't know if it's a paycheck. Part of me is starting to think a lot of this is a paycheck, because the problem is when you watch pundits like Tucker, for example, there are now numerous videos circulating of him saying one thing and then, flipping and saying the exact same thing. Like, there's a video of him saying, we've got to deal with Iran. Iran is a huge problem. Somebody needs to have the balls to deal with this properly. To now being like, Iran not a problem.
It's a totally different person.
It is a totally different person.
As I think about this bigger picture, you kind of, respected Anna. You brought her on the show to be on the Her Take.
So
Do you
stupid.
believe that, you had some sort of friendship, right? Do you believe that she actually believes in what she's saying?
I do.